Hey everybody, welcome back to another day working on the old Jeep. It is 60 degrees with 50% humidity, but at least it's sunny out today here in Arizona. And while I got weather like this, I got to get this Jeep done. So I'm going to work on the rock sliders today now that I have the front and back bumpers done. And I put those round tube ones on there probably 30 years ago. And honestly, don't even remember how I did it. But they've stayed on there this long, so they must have been put on fairly decently, right? Let's take a look at them because I got to get them off. Let's take a look at them and see how I put them on. Uh-oh. Okay, so there's just a plate bolted to the frame. Oh, 2 bolts must have been enough because they're still on there. Might put 4 on it. Same in the back. Yeah, same in the back. 2 bolts. 1 front, 1 back. Must have been good enough because they're still there. Might do 4. I think I might do 4 this time. Okay, they came off pretty easy. The passenger side just unbolted, and I had welded those studs to the frame rather than cut holes. 1 bolt went in a hole, a slotted hole, and I just tacked it. So the nuts came right off after I put penetrating oil on them. That was no big deal. It came right off. The driver's side, for some reason, which I don't remember why I did it 30 years ago, but I welded it in 4 locations. I went in and I cut off all the welded on studs and bolts and ground them smooth. And I think what I'm going to do is, let me see if I can show you. The old one, you see I attached those plates directly above the spring purchase, front and rear. And I'm starting to think those spring purchase look like they need a bit of work. And I don't want the rock slider bars to attach there. So I think I'm going to attach right behind these body mounts. That's my plan right now. Of course, plans are subject to change. But yeah, here behind this body mount, and then right in front of the spring perch back here. And besides, another thing I'm thinking, I'd like the rock slider bar to be longer in length than the pieces that come out this way, because I'm kind of liking this square capped off look. I don't know why. I'm weird. I know a lot of you guys probably hate it, think it should be angled or something or other, or I don't know. But I'm just thinking I'd like it, and I wouldn't mind it again on the front and the back of the rock slider. Just kind of make it all look like the same idiot did the whole thing. Anyway, like I say, plans are subject to change, but that's what I'm thinking right now. Okay, so it's kind of solidifying in my brain, if that's my brain isn't already solid, but it's kind of gelling here as to how I think I'm going to do this. These are the pieces of plate that are going to go against the frame. And I didn't actually have any plate. Well, I do have a pretty nice piece of 1/4-inch plate, but it's earmarked for another project and I don't want to use it. So I had a piece of 4x4 heavy wall square tube, and I could see it over there in the corner about 6 inches, 7 inches long, saying, "Use me, Chuck, use me, use me." So I did. I took out my plasma cutter and I chopped myself 4 plates out of it and cleaned it up. And those are going to be the plates that are going to go against the frame. And I think what's going to happen is on one side, I'm going to probably plasma cut, since I still don't have any way to cut a bigger than 1/2-inch hole. I trashed my last step bit. I'm going to punch 4 holes in it like that. I'm going to put my stub pieces coming out from the frame of the 2x4 rectangular tube, and I am going to tack that on in the position I think I like it. Then I'm going to put my bolts and nuts in, and I'm only going to put nuts on it to hold the bolts on. Then I think I'm going to put it up. But I might do that even without the tube even being on. I don't think I need the straight piece of tube out to do that. I think I can do that with just the plates. And with the plates, bolts, and nuts in it, I'm going to put it against the frame. I'm going to tack the heads of the bolts, take the nuts off, weld the bolts all up, and then put the plates and nuts back in. And then I'm going to come out with the stubs, tack weld the stubs on, make sure the stubs are the length I like, and I do have enough tubing to do it, although it's going to be close. And then tack the straight bar across that's going to go underneath the rocker panels. And then I'm going to try and square it all up, make it all pretty the way I like it, and weld it solid. At least that's my plan right now. Could change. We'll see. Hey everybody, welcome back to yet another cold, damp day in Arizona. At least the sun is out. Still got lots of clouds though. Rain most of the night, about 50 degrees and damp. But anyway, it's nice enough out for me to continue getting these rock sliders on. I've got all 16, all 4 of my plates cut, the bolts in it. My goal today is to locate these 2 per side on the frame in the right place. And this way doesn't matter. This way matters. And the length of the stub shafts coming out matters. Not as much as this way does. So I've got a small dilemma. I mean, other than the fact that it looks like it's going to start raining again. But besides that, I do have a small dilemma. And that is that frame rail back under here, where I want to weld to. It slopes back. You can't see it from this angle, but it maybe I can get you down there so you can see it if you want to. I mean, that is right in there. That frame rail's right where I want to weld that plate. That frame rail's got an angle to it. So there's a couple things I can do. I can put spacers behind the bolt to space the plate out so it's square with this out here. I can take a pie cut out of my stub piece here. I can take a pie cut out of there to make it right. And that's going to be a wild, both of these are pretty much going to be a wild ass guess. I mean, it's going to be an eyeball type of thing. Or I can put the plate on where the plate goes, leave the stub shaft coming out at an angle, and then fix it out at this end. And if I have to weld a pie cut in under there, that's okay, because I mean, nobody's going to see any of this anyway unless they crawl under. And once I have it out to here, I think it will be a lot easier to get that angle correct. And I can just do that at that point with a, I mean, I can unbolt it and do it with a cutoff wheel, or I could even do it in place with a cutoff wheel. I think that's going to be easier than trying to fix it back there. And that is what I think I am going to do. Okay, so there's both my pieces in place. The bolts are welded up. Everything is at the right height from the body. Everything is pretty level. I'm pretty happy. I've got exactly 3 inches on both of them. From there to there, I'm square with the edges. I think all I've got to do is take one last measurement, cut my cross piece, and bring it out and tack it on. How I'm going to hold it up there while I do that, I don't know, but probably a combination of jack stands and clamps and cussing and yelling. I might even see if I get the wife out here, but on second thought, maybe not. Anyway, gonna do that next. Okay, so it's 3 o'clock and it's about the time of day I get to when I start to think about stopping and cleaning up. I think I've got a lot done today for one day. One day of work for me, which is about 5 hours, 4.5 if you count lunch. I wouldn't mind working on it till dark, but once again, I think I'm in for rain really soon. I've dodged it so far today, so it's time to clean up and go inside. And it's a good point to stop at. That's all tacked together. I'm very happy with my gap. I think my gap is very consistent, or certainly good enough for me. And I'm happy with my protrude. I think my protrude is also certainly consistent enough for me, and it's exactly what I wanted. Okay, it is another morning, another cold, damp, possibly rainy morning. And we're still going to get at it anyway. That side is on. I'm going to leave it on just so I have something to compare the other side to. I know you can't see both sides at once, but I'd like them to be as close to each other as possible. I got my plates here ready to go. I got to drag the welder out. Since I got all the figuring out done yesterday, I think today is going to be easy. I know where these are going to go. I'm just going to match where they went to the other side. I know the distance down the frame. I know the height. So I'm just going to get the welder out, the wire brush, clean the frame off. I'm going to tack weld those on like that, then pull the nuts. Since I showed you the other side, unless something goes wrong on this side, I'm probably not going to show you much of it till it's done. Okay, I already have a problem. I got that one located. That's toward the rear. But in the front, and I'm going to admit to you guys right off the bat, I caused this problem because I didn't come over here and look first. Where I need to put it in the front, I've got the parking brake cable going through the frame rail. And on the other side, I completely covered that hole up with my mount. And obviously I can't do it here. I can't have the mount. Now the mount comes off when you pull the rock slider off, of course. But my holes go all around, my bolts go all around it, and that's not going to work. Even if I modified the mount, and the mount on the other side goes like right up there. So even if I were to get this in there, and it's an inch back from this body mount, even if I were to get that in there, I'm not going to be able to pull the pipe out of here. There isn't enough room for that. Now, I could trim away a little here. I could trim away a little of my mount there to make room for the cable. And I could trim away a little of the body to move the cable up. And that might give me enough clearance. I could also take a little bit out of there to allow the cable to go up more. I really don't want to do that either. Or I could also pull the parking brake cable and try and reroute it, which seems like a ginormous pain in the tush for not a huge amount of reward. Or I can put this back here, and that is now 5-6 inches further back on this side than it was on the other side. I mean, I'm sure it would be fine, and it would hold it without a problem. But what do I want to do? I would really like it up where the other one is, but I just don't know that that's going to happen. So I've got to think about it a bit. Also, for those of you that are thinking about it, I can't really move this on top of the frame rail because it only comes back to about here, and then the mount to pull the cables is right in line with that. And I just don't think the juice would be worth the squeeze to completely re-engineer the location of that thing. Also, it is solid as a rock and doesn't really want to move anywhere. So, and I really don't want to modify the frame. I really, really don't want to do that. So I'm throwing in the towel on trying to get this piece to fit in around that parking brake cable. It's way too tight no matter what I do. I tried massaging things to get, a 1/4 inch here, 1/4 inch there, a little extra there, and no matter what I do, it's just going to be in the way. So I thought to take a small slice out of here and then put a small piece of 3/4 inch round tube in it, but I couldn't hit the position right because there's really no way to get the position right once the piece is in. So I kept making it bigger and bigger, and now I've got this cut, and this is going to go in. I'm going to weld that in, and then I'm just going to trim all around here. I'm going to weld that in, but all the way like that. Weld it in all the way like that. And then I'm just going to trim around it so that I got this nice great big channel for that bleepity bleeping parking brake cable to go through. I can't tell y'all how close I was to taking my cutoff wheel and cutting that parking brake cable out of there, but I knew that I'd hate myself later, probably later the same day. So I didn't. So gonna do this now. Okay, I now have both sides on, all tacked up, bolted on, and ready to be pulled off and capped, welded, and painted. And when I get them off, I'll show you what I did on the driver's side. Okay, I think I finally have these ready to be wiped down and painted. They're all welded up. Caps are all ground down smooth. You can see what I did here for that parking brake cable. And I made it that big for a couple of reasons. One, I tried making it smaller and it wasn't satisfying me. And you know, before I decided to cut the channel in it, I tweaked and massaged where it goes in the frame. I tweaked and massaged here. I tweaked and massaged my side of my mount. I tweaked and massaged the body where the cable comes around. And I just wasn't getting enough to make me happy. So once I decided to do this, I cut a small one in it, and that didn't make me happy. So I said, you know what, I'm spending an absurd amount of time on this. I also have those 2 wiring looms I want to go through there. So I found a short piece of heavy wall 2x2 square tube, and I just cut down in. I sunk that tube in there, I tacked it, I cut the extra or the tube off, ground it down and welded it. And the only reason I ground it down as much as I did wasn't so much as to hide my crappy welds and crappy cutting abilities. I just wanted it smooth enough so it wouldn't dig into any of that wiring loom and wouldn't cut anybody's fingers who came back and touched it. And ground all the corners of my caps down enough to make me happy. Remember, this is this only has to be done well enough to make me happy. And my level of happiness, and let's face it, these end caps, they're going to catch rock chips and stuff really quickly, so I'm not too concerned that they're not perfectly smooth. Oh, and over here, remember I had that big gap I said I was going to cut and massage in. I decided just to cut a short piece of steel tube, or actually a short piece of flat bar. I stuck in there and I just welded it all the way around. And these are ready to be wiped down and to be painted. So I think I'm going to have these back on today, assuming they still fit back on after being welded. So going to do that now. Okay, there they are, all painted up. I'm going to try and wrestle them back on. Oh, on the frame where I welded those bolts on, I painted that all, I cleaned it all up, and I painted it all in that self-etching primer, especially, you know, because I welded those bolts and the plating is off. Plus I cleaned the frame up to get the bare metal to do the welding. So I painted all that with the self-etching primer. Then I taped up over the threads of the bolts, all 16 of them, which was fun, and I painted it with some undercoat. I've also painted this with the undercoat. And the reason I did that instead of using that black textured Krylon paint that I did the front and back bumpers with were 2 reasons. 1, this is almost going to be completely under it. And 2, I don't have any more of the textured Krylon paint, and I had 2 cans of the Rust-Oleum undercoat sitting on the shelf, and I'm cheap, so that's what I used. If it doesn't match or looks funny, I can always get another can of the texture paint and just go over the outside, the part that's exposed. I hope welding this didn't change the positions of anything, but if it did, I'm probably going to be making some holes bigger. But it came off, they both came off really easy, even the one that has the channel for that for the parking brake cable and the other wire looms. I'm going to root through that channel. Even that one came off without too big of a fight. So here we go. Okay, so I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is both sides are on and bolted up. The bad news is, you guessed it, the holes didn't line up after welding. And I was kind of sort of expecting that. The forces of heating and contraction and all bending and all that stuff are very powerful. And without a really heavy-duty fixture table and heavy-duty clamps, you're not going to prevent it. And also notice my gap on this side did not stay the same. I'm up tight in the front, and I have my 1/4 inch, which is what I wanted, in the back. And my line is good. Of course, my line there wouldn't have changed. I tried putting my jack under it and jacking back there, but it just lifts the whole vehicle up. So I can always loosen the bolts and put some spacer behind the plate and kind of play with that. If it really bugs me that much, I can. Right now, I'm not really sure how much it's going to annoy me. It's 4 o'clock and I'm getting kind of tired of the whole thing. This has been a far bigger wrestling match than I expected. So here's what it looks like on this side after it's mounted. And these wiring looms are going to get tucked up there. But this is one of the reasons why I made that as large as I did, so these 2 wiring looms could run through it. They come down from the corner of the body there, and then they run down the frame, and that's where that parking brake cable tucks inside the frame. And then these run down here and I've got to get them rooted and held up. But so it's the next morning out. I got this finished up yesterday afternoon about, oh, I don't know, 4 o'clock or so. They're all bolted on. They're all fit good. I'm really happy with the driver's side. I was originally intending to leave a gap between the rocker, the rock slider and the sill, but I didn't get that over here. It's up tight. We'll see how bad that rattles, but I'm not going to fix it until I know it's a problem. And I can probably, it's only held on with 8 bolts, so I can always, or 8 nuts, so I can always loosen the nuts, drop it a little bit, and put a piece of weather stripping or foam or something in it. This side over here is the one that annoys me. I don't mind the gap in the back or the lack of gap in the front, but what I mind is the fact that it's no gap in the front and the gap in the back. The changing gap is what bothers me. So before I go any further, before I touch the paint up and call them done, I'm going to loosen all those nuts slightly and see if I can't even that out. Okay, a couple washers under the back of it, some pushing and pulling and shoving and tightening up in different order, and I kind of got it where I like it. I'm pretty happy with that now. The reveal isn't perfect. Sticks out a little more in the back than in the front, but I'm much happier with the gap. It's not noticeable. And if those sill panels, those chrome sill panels down there don't clean up, I might very well paint those black, and then you won't even be able to notice it at all. Plus, I'm going to change the body mounts in the near future, and that's going to change the gap there. Probably add more since these are factory body mounts. So we'll see. We'll see what happens when I do that. Assuming I do that, I touch the paint up, I think we're good to go. So front and rear bumpers and rock sliders are all done now. I do want to do the spare tire carrier still, but I don't have the materials for that, and I spent all my money on Christmas, so that's not going to happen probably for at least a month till I collect some more money up. So what did I originally have? 23 feet of 2x4 rectangular tubing, and this is how much I have left over. All the rest of it's on the Jeep, and I do like that square look better than the round look. The round look was groovy back in the, the 1970s and 80s, but I like the industrial military look of the square tube much better. So thanks for watching. Not sure what I'm going to do next on this. I want to put a front locker in it. I want to rebuild the limited slip in the rear. I want to paint it, of course, and I'm not sure how much I'm going to get done before it gets too hot here next March or April, whenever it's going to get too hot for me out here, but we'll see. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon.